In today's video, you're gonna see if we can make a tutorial using Cinema 4D version R6. Not 16, 6. You don't wanna miss this one. Hey everybody, it's Nick here again from Greyscalegorilla, giving you the tools, training, and tutorials to help make you a better motion designer. Now we have a really fun presentation today, but before we get started, I wanted to make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, where we have plenty more videos just like this, podcasts, interviews, tutorials, all to help make you a better motion designer. And also, we just launched our new training page, where we have hundreds of hours of Cinema 4D training waiting to help make you a better 3D animator, a better designer. Please go check it out. I'm gonna link it up in the description and right here on YouTube. All right, with that, let's get into today's video. This video was recorded during Half Rez 2016, where Chris Schmidt hit the stage to see if he could do a full Greyscalegorilla tutorial using a very old version of Cinema 4D. In fact, he goes all the way back to version R6. It's really fun to watch. It's really great to see how far we've come since back then as well. So please help me welcome to the Half Rez stage, Chris Schmidt.
This next presenter has taught me and probably many of you a ton about Cinema 4D. Now, he's been working in Cinema 4D for over 16 years, or almost 16 years. Since the year 2000, he's been playing with this stuff, right? He's been teaching Cinema 4D for over 13 years. He's worked on movie titles like Dumb and Dumber. I've been lucky enough to work next to him for quite a few years and have been reaping the benefits by being able to lean over by my monitor and say, "Hey, Chris, do you know how to do this?" And he always does, or he always finds a way. He's answered your questions directly on Ask GSG, which is coming back soon. He is a Cinema 4D rock star. He's always known so much about this program. He is the technical director that we all need in our life. Please help me welcome to the stage, Chris Schmidt.
Hello, everybody. This is kind of weird. Usually I'm the last one to present, so I'm not drunk yet, which is a little weird. So something that's going to start out a little bit weird here is everything that Nick's been talking about, everything Chad's been talking about, like, I just throw out the window. I am not a designer. I am not very good with design principles. I've been struggling for the last year with our daily renders to, like, oh, the curves shader, that's a thing in Photoshop. Let's try that out. I've just been using Cinema 4D, like every version, obsessively, just that piece of software. So they're probably right. Like, unless you want to spend like 40, 50, 60 hours a week, it's probably a bad idea to do what I do, like just in one piece of software, but it's definitely worked for me. So who's using R18 Cinema 4D right now? Very nice. If you guys are not upgraded to R18, you definitely should. And I know there's a lot of you who are still holding out in R16, and you should definitely upgrade. There's a lot of really fun features. So who got their start in, let's jump back to 16. Who got their start in R16? Anybody? How about R15? 14. Nice. 13. Ooh, 13 must have been a big year. 12. Nice. 11. 10. 9. 8. Ooh, okay. 7. How about R6? All right. That's where I began, back in the year 2000. Is anybody before R6? Not counting you, Paul. Very nice. Les, when did you start? 5? Okay. Anybody before 5? I think we should give Les a prize for 5. But anyway, I want to take you guys back to the year 2000. So to start, I thought I'd set the tone a little bit. You got to take take the dress back a little bit. So. I really used to wear this back in the year 2000. I did not get this because it's a meme online that 3 wolf shirts. I really had these shirts. It was my entire wardrobe. So yeah, 3 wolf shirts and Cinema 4D version, release 6 XL. So look at that, right down here. Look at this icon. Hey, Paul, what did XL stand for? Was it extra large? Oh my God, it was really extra large. Okay, so Cinema 4D version 6, extra large. Just to take this back a little bit, Chad said everybody's going to be switching over to Windows, and I have just purchased my first Windows machine in 12 years. So I've been forced to switch. Didn't want to, but I had to. And also, version 6 still loads in a super modern machine, but not on the Mac. So, Cinema 4D version 6. So we are going to do a tutorial in version 6. Let's see what we can do. Let's do a recap. Let's do a little bit of everything. Let's say you've never used 3D before. We want to do a little bit of lighting, a little bit of modeling, a little bit of rigging. Let's do some rendering. Let's do a little bit of everything in Cinema 4D version 6. I need to scoot the machine over a little bit, so there we go. All right, so let's begin. Well, what do we want to make? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the interface here. First of all, we've got our nice primitives here. That's maybe a little light as compared to what we're used to. And we've got our splines. There's 5 of them, and here's our presets. Particle system not changed terribly much. We've got our lights. I'm actually shocked the lights are almost identical to what they used to be. We've got our deformers. The list is a little light here, but let's start modeling something. If you saw my NAV presentation, I spent a little bit of time making a dynamically driven 3D squid character. So why don't we go and try and rig up a little squid character here in Cinema 4D version 6. So why don't we start out with a cube. So let's go ahead and click a cube. Cool, we've got our cube, Something that's throwing me off, not only am I in Windows now, but I can't rotate with the Alt button. I have to press the 3 key to rotate, and then the 2 key, or go up to these little, the little toggles up here. Who actually navigates using these? If you're don't know, learn the shortcuts. I accidentally moved that. That was my fault. So let's go ahead and start tinkering around with this a little bit. And also, this was designed 16 years ago, so it wasn't necessarily designed to run on, a Windows, 2016 type of OS. So there's a little refresh stuff. I do not blame that on version 6, extra large. So let's go ahead and make this guy. Actually, why don't we change some parameters here? So we've got our cube, and I want to get a couple subdivisions in there before I make it editable. Well, the first thing you're going to notice is we don't have an attribute manager. There's no settings to change over here. If we want to change our settings, you know what we do? We double-click the object, and it will pop open its own little mini attribute manager. That's something that's very handy here. And maybe if I were to change my display mode, and you can see we can't see shading and wireframe, so we just have to go to wireframe. If I were to double-click on that and change some parameters, I just want 2 segments per. But if I click on 2, okay, we got our 2, and let's try 2 again, and try 2 again. It doesn't refresh until we acknowledge the OK, and then it updates. Okay, so we got that. Let's go ahead and jump back to shading because we know that's done. Let's hit C for editable. That hasn't changed. Actually, one of the shocking things I found is that this is the foundation, and all they've done is add and add and add and make things more elegant, but the fundamentals have not changed. This interface, and just for fun, let's tab over here. It's still the same interface. It's been a great interface, and these colors are so much better. And we've got the high resolution icons, even though I've got a low res thing for the presentation. But all of this, we've got our primitives here, then we got splines, then we've got our NURBS and our part. All of it is still laid out essentially the same way. It was strange going back. It was still pretty dang intuitive. Okay, so we made that editable. Let's go ahead and do a little modeling. So I'm gonna go and click on our polygon tool, and let's go ahead and make this a little bit round. So I would normally hit UL for a loop selection, but there's no shortcut for that. But not only is there not a shortcut for it, there is no loop selection. So let's go ahead and rotate our camera very carefully to the side here, and let's actually do a group a nice rectangle selection. Click on Active Tool and say not only visible. We'll grab all those. T for scale, that still works. And let's go ahead and scale up uniformly. Okay, very nice. And let's carefully rotate our camera. Spacebar, oop, I missed. Spacebar can still that selection, grab that. T for scale, let's scale that out. Okay, very nice. Rotate again carefully. Spacebar, selection, grab that. T for scale one last time. There we go. We've got a nice little spherical shape going. That's working pretty well for our the beginning of the head of the squid. So why don't we go down to the bottom? We're gonna go grab some polygons here. I gotta make sure I go every single time. I always forget to, actually I'd switch back to a regular selection, but how many of you guys are always clicking to select through an object and then you forget to turn that off and then you spend an hour modeling and you realize you're modeling straight through the back of the model and you've got a dozen extrudes inside the head of a character and you're like, what am I gonna do now? Anyway, it's still turned on, so let's go ahead and grab these bottom ones. The letter D for extrude, okay, very nice. And I'm gonna click and drag, and it's gonna pull down, so that worked okay. Something that's kind of interesting is these aren't live as they are. So I've got my active tool here and I can do an extrude, but this isn't live anymore. If I were to say change this, it doesn't update. As soon as you let go of your drag, it's committed. So I'd have to, if that was wrong, I have to actually undo and then drag out a new one. So we'll pull that out a little bit. I'm going to pull it down maybe. Let's do another little extrude. I'm gonna hit T for scale, scale that out. We'll kind of get a little bit of a body down here. So that's very nice. So, who remembers back when we didn't use subdivision surfaces, but we used Hypernurbs? Yeah, Hypernurbs, which uses the subdivision surface algorithm. So let's go ahead and make this a child of that. And right away, this trips me up all the time. It doesn't auto-expand the hierarchy, so I have to actually manually expand the hierarchy. So okay, cool, that's fine. So we've got the basic little body here, a little bit of modeling, nothing too fancy. I'm going to go ahead and create a sphere, and I'm just going to go ahead and, I can't move it because I'm in polygon mode. That's something that's definitely been improved. Let's go ahead into object mode, and we'll just pull this forward a little bit. Let's pull it off to the side. I'm going to T for scale it down a little bit, so there's an eyeball. Let's go ahead and create a nice symmetry object here. I'll throw that in. It'll flip it over to the other side. Okay, cool. I want to just color those eyes right now. Why not? So I'm going to double-click, make a new material. No, I'm going to click File, New Material. And then this, I actually was kind of fascinated by this. If you click the material, it doesn't open up because there's no attribute manager. But if you double click it, of course, it pops open as attribute manager. But even now, when I'm in, even in R18, when I go and I double click, I make a new material, it's over here in the attribute manager, but I still double click the material to open up this window. I just like it floating around. And I realized I probably carried that over all the way since version 6. By the way, this is back when I was first going to school, and did anybody get their ticket taken by the older gentleman with a beard near the door? He was taking some of the tickets early on. He was my teacher. I would not be using Cinema 4D, and thus would not have met Nick, and thus there would be no Half Rez, and you guys would not be here if it was not for him. He was an amazing teacher, a huge inspiration. I'm so glad he got to make it out. And he started us off in version 6. But back then, I had trouble getting rides, so I would arrive in the very early morning at school and then leave very late at night. But that didn't matter because I got to play with Cinema 4D for like 40 or 50 hours a week. But then when I realized I was using 40 or 50 hours a week in version 6, I'm like, I can't even comprehend what I was doing then. Okay, anyway, back to extra large. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just make this black. We'll keep it simple. I'm gonna do that. Now, if we want the material to refresh, I have to hit the refresh button, so that pops in. So, okay, that's refresh. Let's go ahead and drop it on here. That actually, it pops open a texture thing. That's interesting, but it put on the wrong object, so let's go ahead and put that on the right object. Okay, cool, so that's got the eyes. Now, we want to keep the rigging a little bit simple here. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and make a cylinder. So I've got a cylinder here. It's inside the object, but let's go ahead and change the parameters. No attribute manager. I got to double click. Okay, height well, let's say I want nice and tall. We're gonna make these tentacles, so I'll do 2,000, nice clean number. 20 segments, nice and round. We'll go easy on the rotation because this is R6 and we don't want to go overboard. Orientation, I don't get feedback here. I can't scroll these numbers. I can't change them. I can't see what's changing in the viewport, so I have to look. Okay, X, that's going that direction. Let's put X in right there. Okay, cool, X. Now it's going the right direction. Cool. We've got our subdivisions. All that seems to be working quite well. Let's go ahead and just right away make that guy editable. Grab our polygons. I'm going to click one, hit Command A for select all. There is a shortcut for Command All, so that's very nice. Let's go ahead and drag this over. There is no shift to snap, so that doesn't work. So I'm going to have to actually undo that, go to the coordinates, and move this over on X, exactly 1,000 units. Enter. Cool. It's 1,000 units over. This navigation is tripping me up so much, but okay, let's zoom out. So we've got, let's just say one tentacle. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and hide these. I cannot drag down to do the dots, so I have to manually click each one. So now we've got that. Why don't we go ahead back to object mode, and let's go ahead and taper this down. Why not? I'm going to make a taper. The taper, of course, is pointed up on Y, so let's rotate. The handlebars are not here. All we have is these little nubbins. So actually, to rotate that way, I have to go over here to this little blue one and rotate that around. And I can't hold down shift to snap it, so that doesn't work. I could quantize it, but let's not do that. Let's just go ahead and type in our 90. So now it's facing the right direction. Let's go ahead and give this a taper. I have to double click it to commit it. So let's go ahead and type in 100. Let's give it a Y length of 2000. Hit OK. Cool, it stretches out. Oh, we already know we want to move this out on X, so we're going to go 1000 on X. That should kind of center out. If I make this a child of our cylinder, boom, nice taper on there. Very nice. I never like seeing bends and tapers and all that in the viewports. I always hide them. So let's go ahead and hide that. And now let's go ahead and very carefully zoom in. Oh, here's something that's interesting. If you use a scroll wheel to zoom, it's not dollying in like it does. It actually is zooming. So look at the distortion as I scroll, which is amazing. So let's go ahead and we want to do some deformation. Now, if you recall, back in the day, we did not have joints. We had bones. So let's go ahead and create a bone. And let's actually hit the letter O, and that does still work, where we actually can zoom up and we can see an entire bone. Now, remember, a joint is actually two joints connected. It's the space between them that it creates. So here we have a bone. So let's go ahead and face this in the correct direction. So I'm going to rotate it. Right here, I know that's negative 90 I want. Let's hit apply. And now I'm going to actually, this is still the same technique I pretty much do in R18, but I'm going to make a child. Of course, I have to expand it. And the child, I'm going to say be 200. And I'm going to grab both of those and duplicate them. And now expand and click and make that child 200. And now we've got all of those. I'm going to click, drag them, make a child, expand, select 200. And let's go ahead and hit, can I zoom? Okay, can zoom out on all of them. I want to see how many we need. So I think we need a few more here. We haven't gone beyond it. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go ahead and duplicate one more time. Make it a child. Expand. Select. 200. Cool. Now it's shooting past. I got too many of those. Okay, that's one. Or actually, I think it's this one. We're going to delete that one because we don't need it. So that should taper out. And if we were to hide it, you can see it ends right where our tentacle ends. Okay, cool. So we've got our bone chain here. So let's go ahead and drop this in on the cylinder. So this is going to affect the cylinder. Now, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save this real quick. So let's go do a quick save here. Let's just go to Half Rez. I'm going to save it as squid. Just in case this does something weird. But let's go ahead and turn on a bone. And boom, instantly. Okay, nope, that didn't work. Don't want to turn that on. I could click and try and drag through it, but that doesn't work either. So this is interesting. Do you know what you have to do to bind this? We have to right-click on the bone, and we have to say, fix bones. So let's go ahead and fix these bones. Boom. Do we want sub-objects included? Oh, yes, we do. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, excellent. Those are now turned on. And if I double-click on one of the bones, you can see we have fixing, and it is set it at exactly its coordinates and its rotation and all that. So cool, that is now fixed. So if I had to jump over here, grab one of these bones, and we're already on rotate, and object mode, I can rotate, and look at that. We're getting a bending little squid arm. Now there's a little bit of weird distortion happening early on there, so we could try and fix it. Let's try and fix that a little bit. So why don't I go ahead and hit undo? And now there's no binding here, and there's no fancy like vertex painting. But what we can do is set vertex weights. So let's go ahead and select some vertex weights, and I'm just going to do this, even though I know it's going to be an utter failure. But let's go ahead and grab a group selection. I think it's still not, it's tolerant, so I can go and grab that selection. Let's say that was our first collection. I want to set that as a vertex weight. So let's go ahead and say set vertex weight. So 100%, boom, we've got a nice vertex map. You guys are familiar with that. The icon still looks pretty much the same. So then how would you bind this to a particular bone? Well, what you would do is right-click on it. We are going to add a new, where is it? A new restriction tag. Okay, cool, restriction tag. Okay, cool, so we want to drag in this vertex map. Nope, no dragging. We can't drag that in, so you know what we got to do? We got to name it. We got to figure out what the name is. So let's double-click it. When you double-click it, the only parameter is to name it. So let's go ahead and name that bone 1. Yeah, okay, bone 1. So now we want to add that in to a restriction tag. So let's make a new tag and say restriction tag. Okay, now we type in bone 1 and just hope that we type that in correctly. And then hit OK, and now that would be bound to it. We got this nice little icon. This went away, I think, almost entirely. You can't even use vertex maps on it anymore, but the lack of dragging it. But you know what? I don't want to set that up for every single one of these, so I just wanted to show you that was the case. So you know what we're going to use? A tool that many of you might not be familiar with. Right here, we have the inverse kinematics tool. So let's go ahead and set that up. We want to be able to animate this thing easily. So why don't I go ahead and set up a nice, effectively joint chain, but it's going to be a bone chain. So how do we do that? Well, first we need to anchor this somewhere, and we anchor that with the very convenient, let's see where it is. It is the anchor tag. So let's go ahead and make the anchor tag. I don't know if you're familiar with the anchor tag, but it was pretty fun back in the day. Let's go ahead and right click, and I'm going to add a new IK tag. Cool, so we got an IK tag, and then it immediately pops up the parameters because there's no attribute manager. Let's just say it's okay. We're going to do that. And you know what? We can do this. I can duplicate these pretty quickly. Actually, not only can you do that, you can right click and say copy to children. So that's pretty good. But you know what? I actually do want to restrict these selections. I want to restrict that. So why don't we go ahead and select all of these tags? I'm going to hold down Shift and then click onto another tag, but it doesn't seem to be working. A very important thing that I have not mentioned yet is in Cinema 4D version 6, extra large, you could not select more than one object at a time. So if I want to change these tags, I have to click on one of them, turn on the checkboxes, and then double click on the next one, and then turn on the checkboxes, and do that one after another. It is actually faster to go and delete all of these manually and then reduplicate them back on than to make the changes individually. So if I wanted to change all of these bones and make them longer, or if I double click on it and open up these parameters and I want to change this function fall off, which we don't have to deal with anymore, thank goodness, I would have to do it on each and every single one of them individually. I cannot select more than one object. In fact, you'll see what kind of looks like when I select one object. It's almost like it automatically selects all the children. And it's just kind of giving it, because you couldn't select more than one, they might as well indicate that you're affecting all of these when you move it or rotate it, but not when you change its parameters. Okay, so those are all done. We've got our IK. I'm going to give it a quick save just in case I mess something up. So let's go ahead and say, yes, save over squid. That is fine. Okay, cool. So now we've got that all rigged up. Let's make sure that this is working. I'm going to go ahead and click on the IK tool, and you're going to see we changed to rotational little ticks here. And I can't, clicking on any of these doesn't do anything because we are now in the IK tool. But now that we're in the IK tool, why don't I just go ahead and click anywhere in the viewport and start dragging? And oh, there we go. Look at that. We're now bending. It's restricted to 45 degrees per. It's a little, like I'm pulling left, and it doesn't always want to move. It's a little bit picky in the direction that I pull it, but I can kind of move it in various positions. So it seems to be working all right. I'm going to revert because I don't want it in that position. Let's say revert to saved. Yes. Okay, cool. We're back. All right, so we've made one. I don't want to duplicate this a bunch of times. So you know what? Why don't we make a whole bunch of duplicates of that? It'd be really nice if we could do that with something like a cloner or something, but the cloner is not going to exist for several years. In fact, how many years? What version did the cloner come out? What year was Mograph? 9.5 kind of thing? All right, yeah, so we've got years before we have even the basics of a cloner. So we're going to use an array. Let's create an array. We're going to drop this as a child. Of course, we have to expand it. Thank you. And now let's go ahead and double-click the array. We want no radius. It's a squid, so he's going to have 6 legs, which means we type in 5 copies. Not super intuitive, but there we go. We've got 5 copies, meaning 6 legs in our array, which means if we change one, they all change. Very nice. I'm going to actually go ahead and click on one bone here. Let's go ahead and rotate. By the way, when I was going to set this up, I was like, let's see if I can find any information about version 6 and maybe any of the plugins or anything. There is nothing. I got this copy from Maxon directly. There is one tutorial on YouTube for version 6. I don't even know why that's there. It's amazing. And it's like a title sequence. It's pretty good. But anyway, let's move on. So we've got that. Let's go ahead and unhide our head. All right, here's the eyeballs, here's the head. They're down a little bit, so why don't we... Oh, I can't select more than one object, of course, so why don't we go ahead and create a null, and then drop that into the null, and drop that into the null, and now I can move that singular object, and now both of them will move. So, okay, that's kind of useful. It's not the best looking squid. My last take was better. But, let's just keep on forging ahead. I'm going to drop this as a child of it, and let's go ahead and even rename this squid. All right, cool. Give that a quick save. He's looking squid-ish. So let's go ahead and let's start getting a scene going a little bit. Let's give him an environment. Now here's something that's very important to note. As I click on this handle to try and move them, it's actually moving in all three directions. If you want to move via an arrow, you have to click the head of the arrow. Otherwise, that doesn't acknowledge it. So let's just go ahead and create a floor. So we've got a nice little floor here. Let's go ahead and just pull this down below the squid. So let's get some materials rocking. I'm gonna go ahead and say File New because we have to make a new material that way. Actually, why don't we go and make a new 3D shader? I wanted to install Bodhi Nut, but I could not find it. No smells like almonds, everybody. But let's go ahead and create, we got so many to choose from. We got earth and fog and, ooh, marble. Let's put them on some marble, at least for now. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this directly on the floor. It wants to project flat, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do our first render. And now this is, a brand new machine. I'm gonna go ahead and render. It's gonna go pretty quick, but let me do that again if you missed it. We didn't have buckets. We had, maybe I'll do that again once we have lights, but look, we have lines instead of buckets. But look at our floor. We got this nice fancy floor, and if we double click on that, you look at all the settings we have in this shader, like 8. Okay, cool. So let's give it some reflection. Reflection's built in, so that's actually pretty good. Let's add some reflection. No specular. I'm not going to change these. We could change the color a little bit if we wanted. We can't click the color, of course. Let's click the color button. Let's make it a little bit gray. And then, okay, cool, we've got that. Let's go ahead and render. It'll take a little longer because it's reflective, but now we've got a reflective thing. It's looking great. This guy's rocking now. I think we need a material for our squid, though. So let's go ahead and say File, New Material, and let's make a real material here. So we got our color. Why don't we go ahead and make it maybe a nice pink squid? I think pink would be pretty good here. All right, so we got our pink there in the color channel. No specular. We don't need specular. Let's go to reflection. Now, the reflection channel, what's good is there's not a lot to worry about. Look, we got like 4 sliders and an image. So, there's not much to worry about. There is no such thing as Fresnel, so that's not a complication. So why don't we just go ahead and make him not super reflective, but, just a little bit. And what is reflective if you're not if you don't have some sort of bump? So let's go ahead and drop in a shader. Look at this list of shaders, everybody. We're not going to go to my favorite shader, of course. Noise. You want to use noises on everything. Let's make our noise. So we got our noise. I click the image, but the image doesn't actually do anything. So let's hit the edit button. So that'll pop up. Oh, look. We got 4 parameters in our noise setting, so let's play with those. This is a little big, so I'm going to go 0.5. Of course, if you want to make it bigger, you got to make the numbers smaller. So let's shrink those down. That should be a little better there. So let's go ahead and apply this to our squid guy. UV mapping, that would work, but UV mapping always kind of stretches weird on different geometries. You stretch it, so I like setting things to cubic. And of course, if you're going to set things to cubic, then you've got to go onto the geometry, and I'm just going to jump down into the array, onto that geometry, and we have to stick texture. And actually, shockingly, stick texture exists. And not only does it exist, it's exactly the same as it used to be. We don't want to include sub-objects. That's a little weird. But look, it's the exact same thing. It's like the same icon. It still has the same settings. I was kind of shocked. But yeah, there we go. We just had to do that. So that's working fine. We've got our nice squid. Why don't we go ahead and do a quick render? There we go. It's looking sweet. All right, now let's get some lighting going. I'm going to go ahead and click on our light. And why don't we go ahead and move this up? And we don't have an axis band, or we can't pull it on a plane, so I actually have to pull it up on one, and then the other, and then the other. And if it goes out of the screen, I actually have to move my viewport to be able to see the handle. And we already know we can't click the handle. I guess I could just click and drag and hope that it went in the right direction. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and close our materials. I'm going to give this a save. And double click the light. And actually, like I said, shockingly, lights have not changed that much. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we still got general and details and visible. We got the noise. We got our lens flares, glows, and lens editor, all pretty much the same. So let's go ahead and make this. Let's keep it simple. I'm going to set our shadow to soft. What's kind of handy is it tells us our memory requirement is medium and our render time is medium. So that gives us, we're covered now. So let's go ahead and give that a quick render. Okay, look, we got a shadow. He's looking pretty nice. Now, there is no such thing as ambient occlusion, not for a few years. There's no GI, not for a while. In fact, radiosity came out in version 7, so we got a little ways to wait for that. So we can't worry about that. But if we want to get that kind of soft shadow, a little bit of light in there, we're going to have to create an additional light. And in addition, so let's go ahead and create a array, because we want to make a whole bunch of kind of soft blue lights, I'm thinking. So we got a nice light in here. We've got our array. Oh, we got to double click it, not attribute manager. Come on, what am I thinking? Let's go 333, make it nice and big. We don't need that many. Let's make it let's leave it up. We got 7 copies, meaning 8 lights. Hit OK. So now we've got those. Now they're really bright, and we got to move them up a bunch. So let's move them up. Now let's double click on our light, and cool. Let's go ahead and give it a soft shadow. Maybe fake the ambient occlusion a little bit. Let's make these a nice little dull blue. Let's not go overboard. And they should be pretty dim because there are 8 of them. Hit OK, go for render. There we go. Look, we're filling in the shadows a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So we have a little bit of daylight thing going. In fact, maybe we could even go into this light. Let's make it give it a little bit of warmth. Let's go a little bit beyond 100%. Like I said, the basics are all still here. Everything has been built upon this. So that, that should warm this up a little bit. There we go, looking pretty nice. Now he doesn't have anything to reflect. Why don't we go ahead and create a sky? So we got the sky object, cool. Let's go ahead and say File, New Material. What do we need? Let's just go with a simple gradient. Keep it simple. Color, no color. Let's do luminance, no specular. Image, nope. Let's go into our shader. You can't load HDRs. They didn't exist yet. Let's go ahead and make a gradient. Okay, ooh, look at that default, very nice. Edit, ooh, 4 settings again. Okay, and it's already at 45 degrees. Why don't we go ahead and do 90? Okay, 90 is up and down. Change our color. Ooh, nice color picker. Let's go to light blue. Maybe desaturate that a bit. And then pick the other one. That's pretty good. Maybe just a little, not so blown out. Okay, that'll work. Okay, let's just go ahead and apply that. The default apply, it's already spherical, very handy. Hit OK. So, okay, we got our sky render. Wow, very nice. Not too bad. I like it. I'm going to give that a quick save. What might be fun is instead of doing a marble floor, I'm going to delete that. Why don't we put him in the water? Let's, we want our squid in the water. So I'm going to say File, New Shader. No, it's not. It's not a shader, actually. It's a material. So we make a new material. And now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to make it nice and reflective, super reflective. Maybe not all the way. It's a cartoony scene. Let's add in a little blue. A little bit of blue into the water. No color. There's just reflection. Actually, I guess we want lots of reflection then. I don't think we want to go transparent. There's nothing under the water, so we'll keep it simple. And then let's add some bump. And we've got a handy shader if you want to make water because we have the water shader. So we can go ahead and click on that. We got four settings again. I'm seeing a trend in these shaders. But it's already got frequency, so it should animate. I don't know what these settings would look like. There's no way of previewing what they look like except for rendering. So we're just going to do that. We're going to assume that's going to look good. We've got our nice water material. Let's just go ahead and drop this right onto our floor, replacing the other one. Do a render. Ooh, look at that water. Very nice. All right, so I'm getting pretty happy with this. Let's do a little bit of keyframing. Let's animate our character. So I'm going to go ahead and go down to our joints, and we need to keyframe. Now, a problem you're going to see is we don't have an attribute manager, and not only do we not have an attribute manager, but we don't have little dots next to our coordinate manager. So if we want to record, we have to use these buttons. Do you guys ever even use these buttons at all? But we have to use them. So, and some of you might be wondering what the P stands for. There's a good chance in modern version of cinema you would never click the P. But what that stands for is parameter. And what's handy is when you click and record parameter, it records every single parameter. So why don't we go ahead and what are we going to record here? We're going to record, I guess actually right here, just rotation. All we want is rotation, and we want the rotation on the hierarchy and not point level animation. No, don't want to do that. So it's all we want to do is record these bones. So we have rewound our timeline all the way. So why don't we go ahead and actually let's set our initial position. So let's go ahead and wiggle these around. Give this a quick save. Let's click on our IK tool and zoom out a little bit. And let's go ahead and so we're on the IK. I should be able to click and just move around. Okay, very nice. Hang on. We're going to get this. Oh, down. Oh, no, okay. And yeah, there we go. Okay, sweet. I want him a little bit underwater like that. Okay, so that's good. So we're going to want to go ahead and record, but you got to be very careful. You don't want to record what you just IK'd. You want to record the entire hierarchy. So we got to go up to this bone and now say record. So now we're going to fast forward all the way to end, drag it all the way over here. And now let's get our end state. So let's go and click on this final one again. Click the IK tool, and let's go and put it into some sort of final position. I think something kind of like this. I don't know, little squid ballet. Yeah, I like that. So that's going to be our final position. When I did my practice this morning, I just remember now, but I would hit record. Actually, let me do it. I'm going to hit record, and then boink, it jumps over there. It's like, what the heck just happened? I forgot to move my hierarchy back up to the top. So let's go ahead and click this and drag it back in, get our squid ballet going, and click this hierarchy. Seriously, it took me like 10 minutes to record 2 keyframes this morning. Okay, so we did that. Of course, you want a midpoint, animation I always feel comes in the in-betweens between the keyframes. So let's just, nothing fancy. Let's keep this moving. Let's go ahead and grab this bottom one. Let's scoot this off to the side, and he'll do something like that. I don't know. Look, I almost did it. Got to click the whole hierarchy. Record rotation. And that's because, the joints are rotating there. So I can rewind, hit play, and look at that. We've got our animated squid guy. He goes down, and then squid ballet. Yeah! Now this guy's a little bit lonely. We need to give him a friend. Who here remembers? Let's see. Under objects actually. Under objects. Who remembers our Zygote Man? Good old Zygote Man. This guy was great. I used to actually use this guy like in professional work for a long time. So let's go ahead and hit. Oh, there he is. This is it's a little bit reboot style. But what's good is that they made it so that you didn't have to worry about complex rigs. Like every one of it, like his shirt is just multiple parts. You can just rotate the object, which is actually like, and I'm not even being sarcastic. Like it was incredibly helpful because when I was doing these like architectural type renders, you don't want to deal with anything complex, or even if you try and pretend to be realistic, they're like that doesn't look realistic. So what you do is you stylize everything. So what I would do is make this guy like a silhouette. Now we have to delete all of his materials. So we'd probably have to start expanding his hierarchy, and you can't use your shortcut to expand the entire hierarchy. It doesn't work. But there is, so you'd have to either expand it all the way manually, or you have to click on it, and I think we can we can go up to, here it is, unfold all under objects. So we unfold all, we got all those, and I can even drag one material to the top, right click, and then delete tag from children. Boom, they're all deleted. And now we can say function, and this still existed. I was shocked. Remove all unused materials. Very cool. New material. Let's go ahead and throw that on the Zygote Man. Spherical, of course, I want him to be silhouette guy, so we're going to turn off color, turn off specular, refresh so we can actually see it. There we go. Now we got silhouette man. So he's going to hang out. Now what's cool is he's also already IK, so he's going to be sitting on Squidman's head. So let's go ahead and click one foot. Now if I were to click and kind of drag here, he's going to like get all wonky. So the best way is to kind of go parallel to it. And you can't click the middle mouse button to get to all four views. You actually have to hit the button and then pick the view. But let's just rotate the camera. Let's kind of, it's a little twitchy there. Nope, almost. There we go. Grab the other foot. Oh, that worked on one try. And let's get that kind of there. Very nice. Rotate around. Whoa. Oh, he's backwards. It's actually doing an optical illusion to me. I thought we were looking at the front. I'm going to grab the hand. Let's pull that down to something not weird. Cool. And I'm going to grab this hand. And I think he's going to be waving. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of waving here. So he'll pull his hand. Ooh, that looks painful. Let's go ahead and grab the shoulder. Not IK, but regular. Rotate, and now, ooh, red handle. Okay, red, there we go. Okay, so we got silhouette guy. Let's go ahead and sit him on top of Squidman. So, I guess too complex geometry. It's already dropping over to our wireframe. So let's go ahead and move this over. I'm going to grab our Zygote Man, hit E for move. Let's go ahead and very carefully grab this arrow. It's hard to tell in the 3D perspective, but I think I can manage. Let's go ahead. Okay, cool. He's going to sit right on Squidman's head. And he's also, I think he should be waving. So let's take a look at the timeline to set this up. So to start out with, why don't I just go ahead and click on this arm, and I'm going to hit R for rotate. At the time of 0, that is the rotation, not hierarchy. Not hierarchy. Cool. Record. Let's go forward a little bit. Cool. Rotate. Rotate. I was not expecting these handles. Okay, I'm going to just have it go down a little bit. Cool. And then record. Okay, cool. Now we have to go to our timeline. So let's go Window, Timeline. And what's pretty cool is we can dock the timeline. Not an attribute manager, but the timeline, yes. So now we have to go find the setting. So it's somewhere in here. Oh, there it is, right arm. So look, do you guys remember the sequence? These are sequences, this bar that travels across. But what's great is I can actually just go ahead and grab these keyframes and hold down Control. That still duplicates. I can duplicate those. Duplicate those. Man, I missed this timeline. This is amazing. Zooming around, I can't even remember the shortcut. Somewhere there's a way of going, we can go to space curves or time curves. Time curves are weird. I think it might be space curves we want. So you can see the little waving. But it's always just stretched to wherever we drag this timeline and navigate. You can't rotate. You can't use any mouse controls to zoom around. But man, that's amazing. But now we should be able to hit play, and now we've got Silhouette Guy waving on top of Squidman. Okay, excellent. Very happy. But you know what? That's a little boring. So why don't we make Silhouette Man explode? You gotta make him explode. Everybody loves explode. It's the first thing you do in Cinema 4D. Actually, I guess now the first thing you do in Cinema 4D is dynamics. But what you used to do is explode, because explode is awesome. So if we want to explode him, we gotta drop that into Zygote Man, and we have to. Let's start at the end. He won't explode until like around this time. So we have to record the parameter. So okay, we're recording that. Record. Boom. Fast forward to the end. Let's double click our explosion. Same settings. Just no fall off. 100% exploded, and then we record. But what I love is that we're actually recording all of those parameters at the same time. They are not individual at all. I don't even know how you would animate, how you could animate with this. And if we go into our timeline, we've got our explosion, and I have to go back to sequences. It's not keyframes, it's sequences. If you double click it, you get your entire parameters, all your attributes popping back up, and you have to change all of them. Like, how would you change two different parameters at the same time? But yeah, let's go ahead and rewind, hit play. And boom, he explodes. All right, cool. I think we are ready to render. I would talk about the basic particle system, but the basic particle system has not changed except there's, now we have fall offs, but they added thinking particles and now we have X particles, so that's pretty much covered. It would just be pointless to talk about them because they're pretty much the same. So let's go ahead and zoom out. Let's get our camera angle. I would keyframe the camera, but I think I'm running a little long already. So why don't we go ahead and open up our render settings? What's cool is a shortcut still works. We can hit Command B, and there we go. Look at our render settings. So we have a bunch of different render modes we can deal with. We have our ray tracer, and we can do editor, and we can do cell renderer. All the options we want. By default, no anti-aliasing, but we can turn those on if we want. We can turn on edges and edges with color. We can turn off a refraction individually, but I love. Oh, look at our default resolution, 320 by 240. That's amazing. And we got to jump over. We've got a bunch of effects. Let's see. If we want to go to save, we can save alphas, but there are no other passes. There is no other pass you can do whatsoever. It's just the final sequence or just the final video with an alpha. Why don't we go ahead and I guess we'll export an AVI movie. Or you can do AVI movie small. I've never understood what small or big was, even 16 years ago. AVI movie, we can go to options, but I don't know any of these anymore. So I'm just going to leave it default. Okay, default's good. The path, okay, let's tell this to go somewhere. I'm going to put in a render. There's my practice one before. Squid 2, boom. All right, so that's there. Output, all frames. Let's go ahead and, ooh, look, they actually have the kind of a modern one here, HDVS. HDTV, I get. What's HDVS? I don't even know. But I'm going to click 920 by 1080. Very nice. Field frame, no, let's not mess with that. We could do some cell render. Let's go ahead and give this a little bit of anti-aliasing. Let's say always. This is a modern machine. So we've got 90 frames of animation to go. 30 frames a second, resolution, saving out, yep. We can do QuickTime VR, it's built right in, very nice. Hit OK, give it a save, because you never know. Wait, let's get slightly better framing. All right, cool, let's go ahead and render. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh boy. Look at those render lines. And keep in mind, back in 2000, you would have one line. So, and I don't even know if this caps out, but there we go. These are all the different processors processing. But that's going to take a little while. So you know what? I think we gotta stop that, and we gotta do what Cinema 4D recommends, and let's jump ourselves back down to 320 by 240 and get this thing rocking. Yeah, go ahead and save over it. There we go. Now we're cranking. Very nice. Look at him go. Now, it's something I want to point out here is how important it is to appreciate how far all of this has come. Now, Nick and Chad, and there's so many people who will say, the software you use, it doesn't matter. But it does matter. It matters a lot. And all you have to do is look at this. And I want to let this render before I get to some of the bigger point. But you see how much things have improved. A lot has stayed the same, but so very much has changed. No, I can't scroll in. Maybe if I go to view. Ooh, there we go, 200%, yeah. But look, in this picture viewer, I can't see any frame except for the one that it's currently rendering and what happens to be underneath it. We just have to wait for that to finish. There is this could be, I guess, a TIFF sequence, and we could go see the individual frames, but we just have to wait for that to crank through. There's actually, I must have added more reflections or something because it's taking longer than my test one. We can dock this, so that's also pretty handy. So let's see, just some other highlights I was looking at as I went through this. There's no such thing as edges right now. We have point mode, we have polygon mode, but there's no such thing as edges. There are no n-gons. There are so many things that we take for granted. I love that sound is just right here, all the time. You guys spend lots of time doing sound in Cinema 4D, right? No additional particles. There is no espresso. If I right-click and we look at the list of some of our tags, we can make a coffee expression, but there is no such thing as espresso. We have fixing expressions and so on. There is targeting. We have a target tag, which is pretty neat. Let's see. What else is there? All those are fine. But man, just over and over again, it's let's select more than one object. I'm holding shift right now. It just doesn't go, and it blows my mind that I worked from this. And I wish I could have tracked down my original demo reel so you could see, because I'd feel a little better about it now when I'm wow, okay, I spent 50 hours a week in the lab, but this is what I was playing with. And okay, it's more than halfway done, so we're cranking along on there pretty well. But and actually, while that's going, and I don't want to overtax the system, but because I'm also recording right now. But let's jump just for a moment into version 18. And here's where I want to say that the software you use does matter. It matters at least a little bit. So in version 18, they added the Voronoi fracture, which is super fun. I'm sure if anybody has 18, it's probably the first thing you played with because it's the big sexy feature. So I'm gonna go ahead and do what? It's definitely chugging a little bit because of the rendering that R6 is doing. So maybe I'll just do some of the very basics here while it finishes. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Mograph, and then I'm going to very slowly let that. Wow, the R6 is completely taken over the system. Okay, so you see that gets fractured. I'm going to create a floor. I'm going to pull that down. Actually, just for the fun of it, because it was frustrating me so much, I'm going to grab the handle and pull it straight down. Oh, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, I'm going to right-click on that, and let's go ahead and set up our simulation, Rigidbody, and why don't we go ahead and duplicate that onto this one. And I'm not going to hit play until until this render is finished, which is probably getting pretty dang close. 82, we got 10 more frames, less. Oh no, the guy's gone, and we can't go see if the timing was any good or anything until this is done rendering. But let's see, is there any other little tidbits? There's so much. I love these Hypernurbs. We have. I was trying to do some splines, but there's a weird thing with the mouse. It just does not translate back to version 6. When I click, it like moves and shoots splines out into the infinity. So it's like, okay, no splines. So 91, we're almost done. Oh, it's done! Hooray! 3 minutes and 50 seconds. We've got it's only 320 by 240, but we do have 2 different materials with reflection. So come on, let's be fair here. Okay, so that's done. Let's go ahead and check out our render folder, and we've got Squidman 2, that was the one. Now, it doesn't, there's some players that don't like this old format, so I think if I open it in Windows Media Player, oh, there we go. Yeah. Set to repeat, there we go. Super worth it. Everybody, the tools we have matter, and let me show you one of the reasons why the tools we have matter. Because here we have in version 18, I can go ahead and hit play, and instantly we have fractured this object. And you know what? That's probably the first thing you do when you open R18. And at a certain point, that's going to get boring, and everybody's going to get used to it. But what that has done is it's opened up a huge space, a big part in your brain where you can think about what are interesting ways I can use this? What are some ways I can apply it? Like, there are things you can do now that you could not have done before. And, there was a couple different fracturing tools before, but now you can immediately incorporate all of the Mograph tools. You can add in all these different sources. And let me just pop open a very simple file I put together here into Voronoi Fracture Helix. And hopefully that doesn't try and open an R6. Let's go ahead and carefully drag that into R18. Okay, cool. So very simple setup here. All I have is a cylinder that I put into Connect to weld the edges together, and I put that into the fracture. And now as a source, I dragged in this Helix. And the Helix, of course, is, let me even turn it on. The Helix, you can see right now, is a straight line. And actually, why don't I go ahead and turn this on? So all that's happening is I have a Helix, and it is animated to add, I even forget the name. It's just the end angle, and the end angle is just spinning around. So 1 keyframe at the beginning, 1 keyframe at the end. So let's go ahead and give that a hide, turn on our Voronoi fracture, and just hit play. So look at what that is making right now. 2 keyframes, 4 objects, and it's doing this craziness. If somebody had shown me this, if somebody had shown me a render or a Nike commercial or something, and they're like, look what they did, how would you make that? I would have no idea. I don't even know a practical application for this, but I know that's really cool, and this has opened up a new design space for me. This is new stuff I can play with, a new tool in my tool belt. So, is that making me a better designer or a better artist? No, but it has opened up something new and cool and interesting that we can play around with and find new ways of using it and combine them in so many crazy infinite ways, and we have no idea what it'll end up looking like. And just as a little bonus, it looks really cool when I have a camera that's actually pointing straight down into it. And if we go ahead and give that a quick stop and rewind, and I look through that camera straight down, it looks really cool when you're looking down here as a tunnel. And if you asked me how to make that before, I wouldn't have known how to tell you. And now I say you add 2 keyframes, and now you've created that. So anyway, I love Cinema 4D! Woo! Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go take this wolf shirt off now.
Thanks again for watching, everybody. A quick question of the day before we take off today. What version of Cinema 4D did you start off on? Put it down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have many, many more videos just like this, including other videos from Half Rez. So with that, I wanted to thank you once again, and I will see you in another video really soon. Bye, everybody. That was good. That was a good one.